Hey guys, welcome to this week's track guide at Zolder, my other favourite track of the season along with Belle Isle. Last season I was hovering around the 2k iRating mark, up and down between second and top split, and then I came to Zolder and I gained 1000 iRating, so I'm hoping for another brilliant week here this week, but we'll see how we get on. As always guys, if this video helps you out, please remember to hit the like button just below the video, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe as well. Okay, let's get into it. First up then guys, the weather. The track is a cool 19 degrees. And the date and time, as always, set to what the official sessions are going to be set to next week. Setup then guys. Setup is pretty much the same as it always is. 54% brake bias, minimum tyre pressures all around. 8 on the anti-roll bar. 7.9 litres of fuel for qualifying. 11.8 litres of fuel for the race. The SPO is a little bit different this week. The lap I'm going to show you was actually set on a +1. It's about as low as you can go. I tried to go on a +2, but I found I was damaging the front wing over the big curbs at the first chicane. A lot of the time, sometimes I get away with it, but it's a bit too risky. But a +1 seems okay. Now this is where a bit of strategy may come in. As you guys know, I like to... The car is low and as stable to the ground as they can possibly get it, hence why we're on a +1. Some people this week though may be on a -4. Now the difference is, on a +1, the car is a lot more stable through the first sector. So turn 1, 2, 3 and definitely turn 4. And you gain quite a lot of time through it. But using a -4 means you can really attack the curb into the chicane, and you can really attack some of the curbs through the second chicane and the third chicane as well, more than you can on a +1. And the car tends to be a lot more stable through and over those curbs on a -4 than it does on a +1. So it's up to you guys. It's going to take some testing. If you guys like to drive on have a similar sort of driving style to what I do, then use a +1. But it's well worth testing out this week, the -4. As I said, the car on a -4 is slower through the first sector of the lap and it's a lot more wobbly. But through the second bit of the lap where the chicanes are and the curbs are, it is a lot more stable, and you can really attack those curbs a lot more. I'm probably going to use a +1 for most of the week, though I may switch it up in the races. So if you want to come by on Twitch, shameless self-plug, twitch.tv/BenEvs. I stream 5 days a week, guys, as most of you know by now. If you want to come by and see what I'm currently using, I will probably be on 1 most of the week, but I may drop it to -4 depending on the races go, just to see how that turns out. Onto the guide then. The lap I'm going to show this week, guys, is a 1:44.908. Simon's probably going to come along later in the week with one of his TT laps and smash this out of the park, though. I imagine there's still plenty of time to be found on this lap. As you can see, I've done plenty of laps this week. These laps down here were done on a -4 setup, whereas these laps up here were done on a +1 setup. You can see I'm doing 45 ones here. There's not a lot of difference between the two setups. Apart from a +1 being faster through the first half of the lap and a -4 being faster through the second half of the lap. So definitely get testing, guys, and see how we get along. The B lap and O lap files for this lap, guys, will be on my Discord. There's an invite link in the description for that, if you want to pop in there and grab those. Okay then, crossing the start-finish line, we're in 4th gear, coming up towards turn 1. We're going to move the car over to the right-hand side of the track, as far as you can get it. Now, the brake marker for this is this Coca-Cola Zero sign here, so... not the first one, but the second one. When you get used to spotting it and getting up to this, once you've done a few laps, it's pretty easy to spot and you know how to see it. But as you can see, we're coming up towards it. Looking at the brake marker, looking at this second bit of white bit here, we're going to hit it, and we're going to be on the brakes and off the throttle. Up to about 50% braking, slowly coming off the brakes, as you can see. Into the corner, we're going to go down into 3rd gear. We're really going to eat a load of curb going across here. If we go back to chase some there, you see how much curb I'm using. Pretty much all of this bit of inside curb here. As much of it as you can get away with. You can really get away with quite a lot of curb actually on this first corner, even more so than this. So load, leaving the car drift out right. As you can see, I kind of hesitate to get back on the throttle here. I go up to about 75% before I get fully confident, go up to 100. I probably should have slowed down a little bit more and then got back on the throttle earlier, but it didn't cost me too much time. Use all this curb on the exit. You can really use all of this green stuff here. Just be careful of this gravel. You don't really want to be over here. Immediately bring the car back over to the left-hand side. Shift up into 4th gear very briefly. As we come, the brake marker for this is I'm looking at where the curb starts to turn in here. I go to the cockpit. As we come up towards this corner, I'm looking at this over here. As we go past, I'm looking at the turn in. Quite hard. There's not really a very good brake mark here. I just know where it is, but again, you guys will get used to it once you know where to brake. Coming up, and it's basically just before the track starts to turn in. Okay, so we're going to come up here, we're going to go down into 3rd gear, we're going to start turning the car, and it's a really late apex, and this corner I actually really do mess up. It cost me about a 10th or so. I probably used a little bit too much curb there, but as you can see, I'm off the curb really early. You really want to turn in slightly later than this. Slightly, as you can see, I'm on this curb. I really want to be hitting the apex around this sort of marker rather than this sort of marker. So when you hit this, it come off the curb early and it chucks the car out towards the left hand side, and as you can see, I'm on these rumble strips out here. On the hot lap at the end of this video, you will see on the delta on the screen that it does cost me about a 10th running across here. So what you want to do is you really want to turn in just a little bit later. Really late apex. This sort of curb is okay. Let the car drift to the left hand side. You want to use all this curb here, but you do not want to get on these rumble strips on this left hand side, because they just slow the car down. So moving past that, we're going to go up into 4th gear, bring the car back to the right hand side, use all the curb on there. It doesn't really gain you much time, but the quickest line. Move the car back to the left-hand side of the track, coming up towards, I think this is turn 4, off the top of my head. Okay, keeping the car right over to this left-hand side of the track. As you can see, I'm even using this bit of tarmac on the outside here. We're not going to use any brakes for this corner, so no brakes whatsoever. Just keep your foot away from the brake pedal. You do not need, unless you're fighting someone else, and then in which case you might need to brake a little bit, especially if you're on the inside. But if you're out on your own, no brakes. Just want to put that out there. Brake marker. Well, I said right. Okay, let's start this corner again because there is no brake marker. No brakes. No brakes needed. So let's go to the cockpit. As we come up towards here, see this little bit of grassy bit here. So we're going to hit this and we're going to turn in. Off the throttle. And we're just going to leave the car coast. We're going to feather the throttle through here if you need it. But we're really just going to turn the car in. Aiming for this apex here. As we bring the car around, we're going to use as much of this curb as we can possibly get away with. But again, we are not going to hit these rumble strips. You hit these rumble strips, they may not slow the car down on this corner, but they will chuck the car out wide to the left and you will be in the gravel over here. Something to take note though, if that does happen, you can get away with running on the gravel out here and not lose much time, but you will get an off track in the race. Leaving the car drift to the left, use all this curb. I could probably use a little bit more there, but there we go. And coming down towards the first chicane. Down there straight, bringing the car over to the right hand side of the track. Probably want to be a bit further right than I am here, using all... there's a little bit more I could use here, but it's not too bad. Coming up towards it, you see this bit of dirty roads. We're looking at the 100 meter board. We'll probably just pass that now. 100 meter board, but really the brake marker I'm using here is the end of this bit of dirt. I tried to explain it on the stream when we were here last season, but I can actually show you with the mouse this time. So as we're coming towards it, we're looking at this bit of dirt here, where the track just gets a little bit harder. And as you can see, just as we get to the end of it, that's where we're starting to brake. We're going from 5th gear, I'm going to say 4th then, from 5th gear, all the way down into 2nd. As we get to the end of this, whatever this is, barrier here, we're going to start to turn in, using about 50% braking. Turn the car in. Now, as you can see, I turn in and I'm trying to avoid these sausages on the curb on the inside. This is on a +1. If you're using a -4, you can really attack this curb. If we pause it here, you can really attack over this sausage and then over this curb and then off down the straight. If you do that on a 1, it will bend the wing. So if you're doing this on this setup and you hit any of these 3 sausages, you will bend the front wing, regardless. So just keep that in mind. We're going to turn the car in, getting as close to this as we can. We're going to take a little bit of curb, but not too much. And then we can really eat that exit curb there. This time it's probably a little bit too much, but a little bit, and then really eat the exit curb and away. The thing to note, as you can see, we get to this point in the corner, and we are back to 100% throttle. So as soon as you're through this first bit of the curb, and you're nicely lined up, as you can, if I go to the cockpit, you can see the car pointing towards the exit down here. So you can see where the car's pointing here, is pointing in this direction. Back to 100% throttle. You can see I slide into the curb a little bit. Maybe a little bit too much on a +1. You can really eat that curb on a -4 though. And back to 100% throttle, up to 3rd gear, and we're away. Okay, keeping the car to the left-hand side on this little uphill. I say left-hand side, you can see I'm in the middle of the track here, but doesn't matter. Keep it to the left-hand side as we come down and around here. Using a little bit of the curb there, although you don't really need to. Okay, brake markers. Now, quite a difficult braking zone. I don't really have a brake marker for this. My brake marker is in between these two tree shadows here, but if the weather is a bit cloudy on track, these trees may not be here. So, again, it's probably about practice and knowing where to brake rather than using a brake marker as such. You can see we're coming up towards it. As we hit this, we're going to be off the throttle on the brakes. And we're going down from 4th gear down into 2nd. So, down into 2nd gear, guys, hard into the braking zone. We're going to stay in 2nd for just a little bit. As we turn the car in towards this corner, we're going to drop it down the 1st. Now, a thing to note, last season, I was using 2nd gear all the way through this corner. In this braking zone and going down the 1st gear can make the car very unstable. You really need to slow the car down first, down to a proper speed, before then going down into 1st gear. Otherwise, you lose the back end and the car will just spin, especially on cold tyres. If you're not very confident with the car, keep it in 2nd gear going through here. I did all of last season, and I may have been a little bit slow through here, but it didn't really make a difference to me. So practice going through in 2nd, then practice dropping to 1st, but as I said, just be a little bit careful. Okay, really going to attack this curb on the inside, as you can see. Turn in, really attack it. Eat as much as you can across. just be a little bit careful of the off tracks across here. You really need to do a lot across these curves to get a slowdown. So if you're trying to catch a bloke in front, you can take a little bit more curve than this and just take the off track. In the race last season, I got plenty of off tracks through these corners, but you know, you're allowed 17 X's for a reason. And then really eat the exit. But the point is, you really need to take as straight of a line through this chicane as you can. So, eating a loader curb. Loader curb there, and a loader curb on the exit. Just a thing to be wary of, these two sausages on the exit can kind of upset the car. So, I try to avoid them most of the time if I can. You see, I just kind of clipped the front wheel across them that time. Just going to go back and show you at a full pace, so you guys can see what it looks like. Loader curb, loader curb, loader curb. Let the car drift to the left hand side, and away we go. Third gear, again, bring the car to the right. You've got these little rumble strips on the inside. Use all the curb without hitting these rumble strips. Up in the third, up in the fourth, keeping the car to the left hand side, little bit of curb there, down in towards this hairpin. Now, brake markers. This is probably the heaviest braking zone of the track. And what I'm looking at is the end of this curb here and across the road here. So if I speed it up a little bit, you will see just as we get to this sort of line, again, it's not the best braking marker in the marking zone in the world. You can see this little pole on the left hand side here, but mainly I do tend to look at this little orange end of the wall and brake slightly before it gets to the end of the screen here. See, as we come up, looking at that, and you can see we're starting to brake here, little orange thing. It's kind of when I'm sitting here racing, it's kind of, I'm looking straight, but I can kind of see this orange bit in my vision. When it kind of gets to this point in the screen is where I'm starting to brake. Again, not the best brake marker in the world, but this is just what I do. Okay, we're on the braking zone. We're going to go down into second, and we're going to go all the way down into first gear. We're going to turn the car in. We're going to use all the curb here. And we're going to get back on the power as soon as we possibly can. Really important, guys, to get a really good drive out of this corner. It's a really long straight down towards the last chicane. People will draft you and people will attack you into this last chicane. So the better drive you get out of this hairpin, the better. Even if you're slow on the entry, make sure you get a really good exit out of here. Using all the curb on the left hand side. Up in from first to second, we're going to go to third. Come to the right hand side, use all of this curb as well. Up in the fourth. Up in the fifth. Up in the fifth? No, not up in the fifth. Okay, we're going to keep it fourth here. I think the note about this straight, guys, people will get alongside you. I tend to prefer defending on the inside coming up into this corner rather than the outside. But if you're later on the brakes coming up into this chicane, then you can hold it around the inside, which means you get the inside for the next corner. But you really need to play it by race, who you're attacking and what the other driver is doing. Okay, so we're in fourth gear, not fifth. Coming up towards this last chicane before the start finish line. Braking zone is the shadow across the floor and the barrier, the whatever advert going across the track that makes it. Just as we hit it, as you can see, we're on the brakes as soon as we hit this shadow. This is one of the points on the track where there's a nice brake marker. And we can use, if I go to cockpit a minute, as you can see, as we come up towards it, we're going to hit it and we're going to be on the brakes from fourth gear down into second. We're going to turn in. As we turn in, we're going to go down into first gear. Again, similar to the second chicane, I actually used second gear through this chicane all of last season. This season I'm going down into first, but again, play it by ear. This chicane definitely tends to be a little bit quicker in first gear, but it can make the car a little bit unstable when going down into first gear in the braking zone. So, test out first gear, test out second gear. I will probably use a mix of both this week, depending on the races goers. These track guides are just hot laps. They're not how to race in a race with other people around you and depending on what other people are doing. So just bear that in mind. Okay, first gear. Again, if you're using a +1, coming up, hitting these sausages here will bend the front wing. Or on a +1, not so much. On a +2, these two will bend the front wing. On a if you're using the -4 setup, you can really just drive straight across this curb here. Just watching for a bit of an off track. But if you're using my setup, the +1, avoid these two sausages here. But get to as close to them as you possibly can. First gear. Again, on the exit, you can really be really aggressive across this second bit, the corner here. You can really drive straight across those sausages. Those won't bend the front wing, just the first corner will. And then using all of the curb on the exit and going across the start-finish line. As you can see, I'm coming towards the right-hand side of the track again to start the next lap. But if you're on a qualifying lap, you can just keep the car to the left-hand side and just drive straight across the start-finish line there. May gain you a few thousandths of a second in qualifying. Okay, there we go, guys. There's the track guide done for this week. Hopefully, or definitely not as long as the track guide at Nords last week. As always, guys, thank you all for watching. If it helps you out, remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. There's the Twitch as well. There's the Discord. We got a great community going. Really, really good community. So if you want to join that, please feel free. Hot lap coming next, guys. Happy racing, and I will see you next week.
45.18. .9